1 minute out. Everybody ready? Everybody good?
Absolutely.
Chief, how you doing, sir?
I'm good, sir. You?
Hey, Chief.
Good.
Gentlemen?
Chief,
Ladies.
how are you?
Lady?
All right. Are you ready? Any?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Everybody ready?
Yes, sir. Sir.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Taft City Council Successor Agency Special Meeting for Tuesday, April 27th, 2020. Pursuant to the Governor's Executive Order N-2920, Taft City Council meetings will be held in the following manner. Number one, in order to protect our constituents, city officials, and city staff, all public meetings until further notice will be held closed to the public. City Council meetings will be live streamed in real time to our YouTube channel by searching for City of Taft City Clerk on YouTube, or at this link, which is www.youtube.com/user/City of Taft. Number two, public comments for this City Council meetings will be accepted and have been accepted in the following manner. Public comments were accepted up until 4 p.m. on this day. Written comments were dropped off in the drop box in front of City Hall. Comments may be emailed and were to the city clerk at ymayfield@cityoftaft.org. Made by phone to the city clerk's office at 661-763-1222. And the comments received will be read into the record. Should a member of the public prefer to speak during the live portion of the meetings, they shall contact the city clerk prior to the time listed above. I understand we do not have any of those requests, so that will not be necessary. This evening's special meeting will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman Josh Bryant, followed by an invocation by Councilman Ed Whiting. I would ask that you join me, please.
All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Right hand over your heart and pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everybody bow your heads. Heavenly Father, our most gracious Father, please continue to hold us in your ever-loving hands as we go through this very difficult time. Please watch over all of our emergency responders, our firemen, our policemen, our dispatchers, our medical service personnel, all of our grocery workers, all of our truck drivers, everybody who is working to keep us all alive and well taken care of. Please continue to watch over all of those people. Watch over everybody here on the west side as you have been doing, and we appreciate everything you do, and we love you so much for it. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
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 Thanks, sir. Madam Clerk, may we have a roll call, please?
Mayor North,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Pryor,
Hello? Orshel? Still there, Orshel? It would appear not.
Yes, I'm here.
There he is, okay. All right, thank you.
Councilmember Bryant,
Here.
Councilmember Eklund,
Here.
and Councilmember Whiting.
Here.
Okay, the first item on this evening's agenda, item A, which was conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation as not necessary, so we are going to move right into item number 1. Item number 1, citizens request public comments. Comments are to be received as stated in the above policy. This is the time and place for the general public to address the city council on matters within its jurisdiction. State law prohibits the council from addressing any issue not previously included on the agenda. Council may receive comment and set the matter for a subsequent meeting. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes. Well, we don't have anybody calling in this evening. but we had a great deal of interest. So a lot of you have contacted us, and that's good because after all, this is your city, this is your government.
I think we have one more possible. Or the call-in instructions.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Looks like we had a latecomer, but now we've got it all. Thank you very much. Anyway, there's a great deal of interest, and everybody's opinion is critical to this issue. I will tell you what brought this about. As COVID-19 continues to impact our lives and our understanding of it changes, our response to it regarding what is best for the citizens we represent is on the forefront. And we have been thinking and considering and planning just exactly what direction we need to go in order to best take care of the community that we represent. That is why I called a special meeting this evening, and that is what we're going to talk about. So I'm going to read these into the record. First, this is from Danny Rodella. As we continue to navigate the extremely dynamic situation of the COVID-19 pandemic, I sincerely hope you and your families are healthy and safe. COVID-19 is causing so much disruption to our local economies, and many are worried about their livelihood. At the same time, the politics of division from both sides of the aisle are not helping the situation. We are living in strange times when taking safety precautions is deemed weak, while taking an indifferent approach to this outbreak is considered a strength. The issue before you today is not merely economic, but also of public health concern. It is no secret that half of the cases reported in the state of California are in Kern County. Using an economic argument alone when considering reopening without seeing the public health implications is unwise and seems to ignore this reality. By opening barbershops, nail salons, or other non-essential businesses, employees and customers will be putting themselves at unnecessary risk of being infected and spreading it to others in this community. How will non-essential businesses such as barbershops or nail shops maintain social distancing if they reopen? Keeping 6 feet of distance is not possible to maintain between a hairstylist and a client. Today, I respectfully request that we maintain all non-essential businesses closed until it makes more sense. We have invested so much to pull back now, and merely justifying putting community members at risk for the sake of the economy is not sound. Physical distancing has worked to keep cases down in our region, and just because we believe there aren't any cases in Taft, that doesn't mean it's true. Thank you for listening to my comments. I also want to publicly thank the migrant workers residing in our community who are supporting our local economy via their work and investment. Our reliance on immigrants to harvest to provide food for stores and our households shows us how interconnected we are despite where we stand on immigration politics, courtesy of Danny Rodell. All right, next up, this is from Pastor Stephen McDaniel. I am writing to propose that churches be added to the list of essential businesses, and I would like to give my reasons and stipulations to that addition. The CDC recommends 6 feet of social distance between individuals not residing in the same household. Right here in our city, Albertsons, Rite Aid, and True Value have made essential commerce possible by adhering to the CDC recommendations. Of course, this includes larger businesses such as Walmart, Costco, and Home Depot in neighboring cities that are adhering to guidelines and taking necessary precautions. A house of worship is essential in these trying times in many aspects. Individuals in drug and alcohol recovery, as well as those battling depression, depend heavily upon the corporate body of believers, as well as the worship and blessings they feel in the midst of a church service. Families suffering economic hardships and seeking family support is a possibility when the church is available during quarantine. Allowing church services support will assist in our city meeting the needs of its constituents in numerous ways. I propose that churches be added to the list of essential businesses, provided that they can maintain the prescribed social distancing of 6 feet and practice safety measures. Perhaps a formula such as 1 person for every 6 square feet under roof could be implemented to maintain the stipulation. I truly appreciate your consideration regarding this matter. I pray for wisdom and strength for our city council and all of our leaders, especially during these unprecedented times. God bless you all. Pastor Stephen McDaniel. All right, next up, Chase Brown. Comments on 4/27/2020 special meeting to discuss expanding the local essential business list. Today's special meeting does not come as a surprise. When economies stumble, small towns far too often feel the effects in ways large cities with their bustling economies can only imagine. Yet I urge the council to be reasonable in a time of unprecedented such as this. It may seem necessary to expand the definition of essential, but the damage we can do by needlessly deeming unessential services essential will be measured not in the revenue we generated, but by human lives we lost to achieve it. The data is clear. The choices we make as individuals have the ability to shape the lives of those around us. When we decide to act prudently, we keep our neighbors and community members safe. When we fail to act in the best interests of our community, we are also prolonging the amount of time necessary for this crisis to pass. In times like this, our leaders are often faced with choices that seem to require them to choose between two bad options. Yet, in a time unlike any other in recent history, I hope the City Council exercises their judgment wisely and remembers that short-term economic relief cannot justify endangering those we share our home with. We must restrict the definition of essential to those businesses that are truly essential. Expansion of this definition may have farther-reaching consequences on our community than any one of us is able to understand. Thank you, Chase Brown. Next up, from David Bosworth. Mayor Dave Knorr and City Council members. As someone with extreme high-risk medical conditions, it is very important for me that our community is safe and sound during the coronavirus shelter-in-place directive. However, it is up to each and every person residing on the West Side to look out for themselves. For me, that means sheltering in my home and taking proper PPE precautions when I do decide to go out. It is my choice to do what is best for me. As far as our city businesses are concerned, I feel they all should be allowed to open up for regular business with specific guidelines in place that embrace a safe and secure environment. Guidelines should be set in place by the proper authorities, whether that be our city council, city planning commission, city manager, Kern County Health Department, or a combination of those who legally hold this responsibility. Under no circumstances should government, whether local, state, or a federal government, be allowed to close a business or instruct citizens on what we can or cannot do based on our U.S. constitutional rights. Please consider releasing our city businesses from this bondage before our city is further destroyed by big government doing its best to destroy our American freedoms. Respectfully, David Bosworth. Next up, Dennis Schertz. I would like to safely reopen my business. I believe I should be an expanded essential business, looking to have fewer hours at first, letting my customers dictate the hours I would be open following safety concerns. I am working with staff to remove bar stools, allowing a 6-foot space between customers at the bar, reserving tables to allow space between seated customers, revamping menu to remove contamination of plates, encourage to-go, take advantage of the relaxed laws that allow to-go drinks. Safety ideas, wipe down all public surfaces at the beginning of each shift. This is what we're doing before being told I was non-essential. Work with law enforcement to determine if any public gathering starts to become unruly. Thermo gun to check customers and staff for fever before they enter to work or dine in. Business ideas. I have a fire certification occupancy of 135. Understanding current situation, restrict to 1/3 or 45. What proposals to mitigate any worries of contagiousness? Any other suggestions? Dennis Schertz, thank you for your time. Next up, Emily Bosworth. I think it is time for Taft to open up our city. We need our downtown stores to reopen. If they don't, they may never be able to be again. They are mom and pop shops, and if we lose them, we will have nothing downtown. Downtown will be dead. Emily B. This is from Cheryl Bethel. Dear members, as a small business owner, I have been able to provide a service to the town of Taft for over 5 years. Recently, the state decided that myself and the rest of the salons in Taft were non-essential and forced us to close our doors during the pandemic. Salons may not be essential in terms of keeping the world turning, but it is every bit essential to me to pay bills and be able to help support my family. Prior to the shutdown, I requested I have only one client in the shop at a time and provided hand sanitizer to all my clients. Between clients, I would disinfect all equipment that was used in order to provide a clean atmosphere. I know that my clients and I would greatly appreciate being able to return to business as usual. Cheryl Bethel. This is from former Mayor Pro Tem and a lady responsible for the decorations around here, Renee Hill. To Mayor Knorr, Mayor Pro Tem Cryer, and council members. The new normal we are living under is having catastrophic effect on the human psyche. We assume lately that the only illnesses that can hurt us is COVID-19. We are ridiculed by the media, a business whose income is derived from ratings and sponsors, for any kind of pushback on the status quo. We are living in a world that is now dictating laws of what is and what is not essential. Well, it is essential to feel good about oneself. We do this in a myriad of ways, physically, spiritually, mentally, and financially. As a small business owner who is deemed non-essential, I can't help but notice that I sell many of the items that are sold in businesses deemed essential. I also can't help but notice the effect that the situation has had on the human condition. We are not smiling. This may seem irrelevant, but in truth, it's part of what triggers us to be happy, which helps us be healthy. As a small business owner, the safety and welfare of my customers is paramount to my own success. Living in a small town, my customers become an extended family. I, like so many of the small business owners I know, have watched other businesses adapt to this unprecedented situation. I am confident that we can accomplish the needs of our customers without jeopardizing theirs or our safety. Why is this so important? To our customers, hair, nails, clothing, gifts, flowers, these are just a few of the things we do to improve ourselves. Yes, they are essential, and that feeling good about oneself leads to better mental health. For the small business owners, one must remember that most of us are not eligible for unemployment. We are not eligible for government loans even if more money becomes available. Most small businesses are literally mom and pop. To us, our valued customers are our only source of income. Yes, it's time to get back to work, but in a new way, a way fit the current times. We understand how our services will have to adopt to a new and creative way to serve our community safely. We understand that we can't run back to the old ways. We must adapt. We will adapt. There should be no shame in one's desire to work, to serve, or even just to stay home. The new normal has room for considerate strategies for our community's safety and for the need to survive financially. On behalf of my husband, myself, and many of the small businesses in the city of Taft, we thank you for your efforts to help us get back to our new normal. It's time to go back to work. Thank you, Renee Pitzer Hill. Sorry, getting a little bit dry here. Even I usually don't talk this long. Next up, Rodney Wyckoff. I think it would be safe to allow businesses to open in Taft. Statistics from Accelerated Urgent Care support the safety of returning to work. Thank you for being so short-winded. All right, Kathleen Johnson. Dear City Council members, I am in agreement with relaxing guidelines and protocols for many of our small businesses. I believe these guidelines should reflect the square footage of the business. For the sake of our businesses, owners, and community, please pass this measure. I also believe we should be allowed to assemble at church following social distancing guidelines. Thank you for your foresight and courage in addressing this matter. Kathleen Johnson. My goodness. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take just a brief moment, and I'm going to hand you these and let you talk for a little bit.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is from Mr. Charles Mangum. Mr. Mangum says, my business is a bookstore. Since the shutdown started, at least 10 people have asked me to let them come in and buy books. They've complained that they need something to do since they're limited in where they can go. Please consider allowing us to open for business, as I would limit the number of persons in the store at any one time and maintain social distancing as advised by the council. Respectfully, Ben Mangum. Next, from Miss Christy Durkin to the Taft City Council. I am the owner of Bangs and Tangles Salon. Out of concern for my coworkers, families, and clients, in my opinion, we should wait until the governor, doctors, and scientists tell us it's safe to go back to work. Thank you, Christy Durkin. From Dr. Kathy Garner-Oren. Dear Mayor Knorr and council members, this letter is written to applaud your decision to discuss the matter of relaxing the restrictions of the COVID-19 shelter-in-place order. I encourage you to not only loosen the restrictions on non-essential businesses, but also to include some businesses and services that have not been mentioned in current informal discussions. First of all, the designation non-essential is a relative term. Hair and nail salons, massage therapy shops, and yes, flower shops do not feed the body, but they are essential to mental well-being, or to the mental well-being, of many. They directly affect personal and emotional health, and by extension, the emotional health of their families. I would submit that if cannabis dispensaries are considered essential, salons and the like should have been put on the essential list. But that ship has sailed. Now we have the opportunity, and dare I say, the data, to look at our situation with more intelligence than fear. We need to provide a way for our businesses to get back to work. They are capable of deciding whether they can provide their services in a healthy, sanitary way that will protect their clients, and their clients have the ability to decide for themselves whether they want to patronize their shops. Secondly, the list of non-essential businesses that has been bantered about has not included gymnasiums. In our town, we have private gyms as well as the gym at the Westside Recreation and Park District, which I suspect served more people in our community than the other gyms combined. Even if we need to put a cap on the number of people working out at the same time, I think we can open up that service for the same reasons I have stated above with regard to salons. Thank you for your decision to look at this issue. It's a gutsy thing that you are doing. Please consider the suggestions that are coming up to you. Our city needs to embark on COVID-19 recovery mentally and economically, not just physically. Sincerely, Dr. Kathy Oren, Director of our local Chamber of Commerce. We keep going?
Keep going.
All right.
Go ahead. I'll tell you what, I'm going to pass these down.
This is from Mr. Zachary Long. Hello, my name is Zachary Long.
Okay.
I'm a current resident of Taft. I saw via social media platform directing us to give our opinions on reopening some small businesses. So here are my thoughts. I believe that it is time to start reopening some small businesses in Taft. I wouldn't see a reason why they shouldn't be allowed to reopen, as long as they can follow by social distancing practices and do not overload their businesses with people. I say yes. Maybe for the first phase of opening them back up, the city can put a restriction on the number of individuals allowed in the facility at a given time, similar to how some essential grocery stores are doing right now. Maybe it should depend on the maximum occupancy allowed for that facility. If a business has 100 maximum occupancy under normal circumstances, then maybe they might consider having only 1/3 of that. I hope that this was helpful, and thank you, and have a great rest of your day. Mr. Zachary Long.
Would you like to take a break,
Sure.
Councilman? And go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This one is from Mr. Greg Hammett. He is the General Manager of the West Kern Water District. On behalf of the West Kern Water District, please accept the comments below regarding the easing of certain shelter-in-place guidelines and protocols for small businesses in our community, and ask that they be read into the record. Quote, West Kern Water District has and will continue to implement measures for the safety of its employees and the public during these unprecedented times. That said, however, West Kern supports easing restrictions placed on small businesses because of the COVID-19 related shelter-in-place order by allowing them to reopen in a safe and socially acceptable manner. Respectfully, Mr. Greg Hammett, the General Manager of West Kern Water District. Next one is from Barbara Johnson, and she says she is the owner and sole operator of a small home-based business, a dog house grooming salon. My husband is a lieutenant at the Taft Correctional Facility. I am in favor of opening the city up. Please, let's get back to business. The fact that non-essential businesses have been forced to close has had a direct impact on my family. As everyone knows, the Taft Correctional Facility has closed its doors, and due to the COVID-19 and oil fields crashing, my husband, along with most of the 300 employees at TCI, have had a very difficult time finding work elsewhere. Unemployment benefits will not pay all of our bills and keep our household up and running, nor provide medical insurance. However, if my non-essential business is allowed to legally open up and operate, then I will be able to help contribute to the income needs of my family. I am a one-on-one dog groomer. I have no employees and very limited contact with the public as it is. I would feel it would be safe for my clients and for me to be able to legally operate my business in a safe manner. And as always, it is my client's personal decision to bring their pets in or not for their regular scheduled grooming appointments during this time. If non-essential businesses continue to stay closed, I fear Taft will have a hard time recovering from this. We need the non-essential businesses. They are vital to our community. We need to get back to business. Thank you for letting us voice our concerns. Sincerely, Barbara Johnson. And my last one comes from Maggie Blackwell at 513 Harding Avenue in Taft. Members of the City Council, should small businesses reopen in Taft, I am definitely in favor of the common sense approach by relaxing the restrictions that is being proposed by the City of Taft. The basis of individual comfort level seems reasonable at a time when the collective psyche and economy is so fragile. Appreciate being asked for input. It feels great to be heard. Thank you for starting locally to get us on a fresh track. Sincerely, Maggie Blackwell. And Maggie is my neighbor, next door neighbor. And that's what I have.
All right, thank you.
Shall I?
Councilman, please.
Okay, this will be from Edith Lauren, Executive Director of the Fort Preservation Society. It's actually directed to Yvette. I understand there's a special meeting this evening concerning the possibility of non-essential businesses reopening soon. As a nonprofit 501c3 and registered historic landmark in Taft, I feel that it is essential that the fort be allowed to stay open for our event rentals. The fort has no funding to maintain these facilities except through fundraisers, donations, memberships, office, and event rentals. Funds are very low at this time due to the closure set by COVID-19 and the cancellation of all our spring events and fundraisers. To date, 7 weddings have been canceled and 3 fundraisers. The fort's 80th birthday celebration has also been postponed until further notice. Please consider allowing the fort to continue doing business as usual within the boundaries set by the City of Taft. Thank you for your consideration. Edith Lauren, Executive Director. Okay, and this is from Jerry Starr. What is Jerry? Jerry Starr, okay. The West Side Healthcare District would make the following comments to the City Council. I'm sorry, obviously from West Side Healthcare District.
Indeed.
To the City Council on behalf of the West Side Family Healthcare. The pandemic health emergency declared by the city, county, state, and federal levels of government continues to impact the physical and economic health of our community. We understand and appreciate your leadership in urging our community move forward in measured response to address the social and economic health of our citizens. The West Side Healthcare District will continue to ensure that the West Side Family Healthcare, the clinic, will be staffed and supplied to support the ongoing healthcare needs of our patients. We can safely screen patients with appointments as well as those that may be experiencing COVID-19 type symptoms or concerns. Clinic providers have the supplies to test for the COVID-19 virus according to CDC guidelines. The clinic continues to operate 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday and 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. on weekends and holidays. Medicare and Medi-Cal and many insurance plans have been enabled healthcare visits by telephone and telemedicine. Do not hesitate to call the clinic at 661-765-1935 with questions or concerns. We urge our patients with chronic conditions to maintain necessary contact with the clinic or your provider to stay healthy. Within the scope of your Honorable Council's definitions and allowing citizens and the business community to resume some semblance of social and economic activity, we would recommend the following to all the citizens and members of our West Side family. First and foremost, stay at home if you are not feeling well. Maintain social distancing, wear a protective mask for your safety and the safety of others. Limit hand touching, hand washing, 20 to 30 seconds with soap and water. Use hand sanitizer. Submitted for the district, Gerald A. Starr, MPH FACHE, Executive Director.
All right. Thank you very much, sir.
That's what I have.
One left.
All right, you go right ahead, and then I'll finish up.
All right. This is from Dr. Jasmeet Baines, board-certified family physician, practicing at 1100 4th Street right here in Taft, California. Good evening, Honorable Council. I wanted to submit my concerns as the local doctor who provides primary care to the majority of Taft and surrounding areas. At this point, cases of COVID-19 in Taft have been low, as seen at my clinic. However, the caution with this statement is that testing has not been adequate to truly represent the population we serve. The main concern about opening up too soon would be a second wave on top of an impending flu season, overwhelming the healthcare in the area. As an area that lacks emergency room and hospital, we are not at the liberty to gamble with the lives of citizens of Taft. My main concern as a doctor is that Taft's population is mostly comprised of elderly and people with chronic underlying illnesses with significant prevalence of lung illness and a high rate of smoking, which makes our city exceptionally vulnerable to a respiratory virus like COVID-19. If this virus overtakes our population, there will be a significant impact on lives. The other concern is that LA County, which is the next county over, has been the epicenter of this virus in California. As we are in close proximity to this county, we are particularly vulnerable to a surge of this virus in our community. This isn't about reopening, but about regaining the confidence of a town that their safety is our number one priority. A few guidelines that I can offer are the following. Number one, ensure robust testing. According to a study done at Harvard, one way to ensure monitoring the conditions in the small rural cities with low incidence is to place a citywide mandate for random testing. For a population of 10,000, according to the study, we should have to test 20 to 25 random people a day to follow a penetrance of this virus on our society. And should we see a jump of 10% in penetrance or more, my recommendation would be to reinstate the city's stay-at-home order to protect those who live within the city. Number two, conduct business outside as much as possible, as we have seen in research that the air conditioning in restaurants and other businesses was linked to the droplet transmission of the virus. Number three, businesses maintain and adhere to social distancing and work toward minimizing entertaining large groups of people. Opening with decreased capacity is such a suggestion. Number four, continue to minimize all non-essential travel and continue to adhere to all guidelines provided by state and local guidance as well as the CDC. Number five, we actively as a city continue to pursue collecting PPE in order to be prepared should such a surge occur. Number six, continue to adhere to social distancing guidelines and face cloth covering guidelines within the city. Number seven, continue to avoid groups of more than 10 people. And number eight, find detail that's provided at www.whitehouse.gov/openingamerica/hashtag or can I think of the what's the proper term? I'm not going to let that go. It's not hashtag. I know it's not hashtag.
This is what she's talking about.
Yes, that pamphlet.
Yes, right here.
I'm going to figure it out here soon. I don't know why it slipped in my brain, but it's like criteria. I apologize. That's driving me crazy. As a doctor, the health of my city is the number one priority. Everyone by now knows my fondness for Taft and wanted to see the city flourish and excel for years to come. I have provided health care here for 2 years now and enjoy my work. I know that we can work together to help protect and continue to serve this community. Thank you for your time and consideration. Jasmeet Baines, MD.
Thank you, all council members. Awful lot of reading, huh? All right, we've got a couple more. We'll finish up here. Next up would be Curtis Walchuk. Hello. Thank you for holding this special meeting. I am of the opinion that Taft businesses should be able to choose to remain open during this time. I believe many would take extra precautions during this time to make their customer base feel at ease. If we lived in a larger, more impacted city, it's very possible I would be of a different opinion. If you wish to stay at home, it is your freedom to do so. That being said, some business owners fear potential penalties from the Kern County Public Health Department if they were to open. They are currently paying rent, utilities, insurance, etc. on empty buildings. When operating on small margins, a month or two without income can and will cause small businesses to prematurely close. Is there consideration on the city's behalf to reduce or suspend bills related to street sweep, refuse, sewer for those that are temporarily closed? This is a service going unused by some, and in a time of need, every dollar counts. Kindest regards, Curtis Walchuk. You know, that is a very good question, and it's a very interesting issue. If I could get concurrence from a council member, I would ask that this very matter be placed on a subsequent agenda so that we can discuss it.
I would concur.
I would second that.
I have concurrence. So direction is to please make this an agenda matter. Thank you, Curtis Walchuk, for bringing that up. And finally, a response from George Harmer. Please see attached notes for the council meeting that is scheduled for this evening that I have put together. Should you have any questions or concerns, please give me a call. Thank you, George Harmer, GPS Safety Director. In this, George Harmer, as the Safety Director for GPS, a very large employer locally, some 600 plus employees, has to do, and we do that in our business too, we get instructions from every one of the customers every day concerning COVID response and processes. And so this is the culmination, I have got to guess, of all of those things being put in there together and addressed. So this is a response from George Harmer. There will be many questions on how the city will be able to roll out any relaxed regulation specifications as well as enforcing them. I believe that we should relax the specifications and begin starting to reopen our community as those deemed as non-essential are the businesses that support those of us that continue to work. This should be done in a precise and controlled way, making clear what is expected, giving businesses a way of making sure that they adhere to any and all specifications. We must also look at the data that reflects our community and businesses, not the rest of the state that has a larger per capita population. The information that I am suggesting are best practices that I have gathered over the last 6 weeks, which obviously, like I say, are rolled out on a daily basis. Best practices, number one, and these are suggestions. Hair salon, barbers, nail salons. First, screen each employee prior to each shift, utilizing a temperature gun to check for fever. Ask CDC recommended questions around exposure to the COVID virus. This can be done by minimizing the number of people allowed to be in them at one time, as well as ensuring that personnel at these establishments wear face coverings. All chairs and equipment shall be sterilized between patrons, minimizing cross-contamination between guests. To facilitate this, there should be a designed gap between customers, allowing enough time for sterilization to be conducted, and customers crossing paths in and out of the salon will be minimized. Making sure that there is the ability to maintain the 6-foot social distancing between customers that will not have face coverings, and allowing the salons to come up with those procedures. Secondly, flower shops. There have been many other businesses that have been able to provide services while maintaining social distancing. Once again, screen each employee prior to each shift, utilizing a temperature gun. Ask CDC recommended questions around exposure to COVID-19 virus. This can be done by minimizing the number of people allowed to be in them at one time, as well as ensuring that personnel at these establishments wear face coverings. There will be a need to make sure that the flowers plants that have been handled be disinfected prior to going out the door, as they will be directly used as centerpieces or displayed close to those that may have compromised immune systems. Massage therapy. Due to the nature of this business model and the requirements to sanitize between customers, there's little that will need to be done to ensure that customers are protected other than employees wearing protective face coverings and screening of employees prior to the start of the shift, utilizing a temperature gun, asking CDC recommended questions around exposure to the COVID-19 virus. Finally, number 4, large venues, sit-down dining, parks, places of worship. There's a need to begin looking at ways to opening up these other businesses, churches, with specific guidelines that are agreed to prior to being allowed to gather. Some of the following best practices are given as a proposed guideline. Sit-down dining. Screen each employee prior to the shift, utilizing a temperature gun, ask CDC recommended questions around exposure to the COVID-19 virus. Secondly, allow booth table seating that maintains the 6-foot distancing that would also allow access and egress to said seating. Third, require thorough disinfection between customers and allow for signature-free bill paying. Fourth, require servers, kitchen staff to wear face coverings. Fifth, proper disinfection of common areas, restrooms on a regular basis. And then churches. Number 1, screen each staff member prior to entering the facility, utilizing a temperature gun, ask CDC recommended questions around exposure to the COVID-19 virus. Set up sanctuaries that would allow parishioners to maintain the 6-foot social distancing, however, allowing families to sit together. Allow parishioners to safely access the facility while maintaining 6-foot social distancing. Request parishioners and require staff to wear face coverings while attending church. Prior disinfection of common areas, restrooms on a regular basis. And finally, staff required to monitor common areas, not allowing more than can be accompanied or accommodated to keep the social distancing requirements. Okay, we heard from a lot of people. And you know what? We are glad we heard from a lot of people. As I'm sure you all heard, there are different opinions regarding this. There are opinions saying perhaps we ought to stay the way things are. Other opinions saying we should open everything. Everybody agreeing, I believe, however, that said, yes, let's start to open things up, that we can take the things we have learned regarding protections from COVID and apply them. So this is the public comments portion of the meeting, which was item number 1. Moving on, item number 2. Discussion and to receive public input, which you just heard, on strategic planning to expand local essential business lists. City Manager Jones.
Thank you, Mayor Nort. The mayor requested this special meeting to start discussion, receive public input, and evaluate the expansion of the county's essential business list as it pertains to Taft. The goal of the meeting is to gain input from the community and healthcare professionals for safeguards and protocols to put in place in order to expand the city's essential business list. Since some of the businesses currently on the non-essential business list are some of the most financially vulnerable, it is the intent of the council to expand the essential business list for Taft to include, but not limited to, barbers, hair and nail salons, and flower shops. This is the first step the council plans to take to start to return some normalcy to our city and economic recovery to our small, more helpless businesses. This move would come with guidelines from the businesses to follow regarding social distancing and use of personal protection equipment. Council believes the benefits of expanding the essential business list can reverse some of the negative impacts on the environment and the individual's personal and mental health.
All right, thank you very much, City Manager Jones. We have heard from the community. Each of you has read into the record every single response we have received from the community. Is that correct, City Clerk?
Yes,
All right, and I want to thank you all for getting a hold of us and your thoughts on this very critical issue, and I want to thank you all for reading those things. Mayor Pro Tem Pryor, I understand why you did not participate in the reading, sir, but I'm sure you're there.
Yes, I am.
All right, very good then. just as a precursor to asking each of the council members their opinions and additional data regarding this, a couple of things were brought up during the course of the public comments. This document being one, and that is, this is off of CDC, Center for Disease Control's website, and is a very comprehensive guide to the expectation to moving things forward as we understand more about COVID-19, we understand how to deal with it, and we actually see the result of the processes that we have put in place. I do want to bring up one of the things, and many things are said in here, but it says under the core state preparedness responsibilities, state and local officials may need to tailor the application of these criteria to local circumstances, e.g., metropolitan areas that have suffered severe COVID outbreaks, rural and suburban areas where outbreaks have not occurred or have been mild. Additionally, where appropriate, governors should work on a regional basis to satisfy these criteria and to progress through the phases outlined below. In other words, recognize that the state of California is a very big chunk of real estate, that there are some very real differences between our areas. That would be between the city of Taft, between Kern County and other counties within the state of California. So one of the documents that I relied upon while I did my research regarding this was the Kern County COVID cases, as well as Kern County's COVID-19 dashboard. The dashboard is a wonderful thing. It is constantly updated, and I believe that we're going to put it up on the site. One of the things that the dashboard will demonstrate, and for you all, gentlemen, it's kind of hard to see here, this green line are the current cases of COVID within Kern County, starting back at the beginning of April the 13th, is that correct? 14th. This is April the 14th through today. This green line are the current cases. Now there is a very hard to see line that is a slow rise and it levels off. This is total cases of COVID within Kern County. What you don't see and what would have to be here is if the total cases, it's cumulative, rise and then level off as they have in this graph. And this green line, which are current cases starting back early in April, which is more than 2 weeks ago, but you'll see this line is not only flat, it's slowly coming down. And what that's telling you is that the number of COVID cases that were sent home and recovered from COVID and now are recovered and back to normal has been just as fast or slightly faster than the number of additional cases of COVID that we have experienced in Kern County. It's all there on Kern County's dashboard, updated daily. So it's real-time information. Along with that is this bunch of information. And on this, it tells you by county how many people were actually confirmed to have been contaminated with COVID, as well as a very unfortunate number, which is the resultant deaths based on the county. And to the point that I made that every county within the state of California is not the same. To paint us all with this broad brush does not make a great deal of sense. This document right here shows that Kern County, with a population of about 883,000, had 809 confirmed cases at that point in time and 4 deaths. It has gone up to 5 deaths at this point in time. However, if you lived in Los Angeles County, you would be more than twice as likely to be infected with COVID. The death rate would be 20 times as high. If you lived in Riverside County, you would almost be twice as likely to be contaminated. The death rate there, 11 times as high. In San Diego County, about the same incidence of infection, death rate 7 times as high. Santa Clara County, slightly higher, just slightly higher infection rate, death rate 11 times higher. Orange County, actually slightly less, but the death rate is 2.5 times as high. San Bernardino County, about the same infection rate, death rate 10 times as high. Alameda County, about the same time or same rate of infection, death rate 6 times as high. San Francisco County, about twice as likely to get infected, death rate 5 times as high. So are there differences based on geography and based on how these communities are made up and how they interface? Obviously they are. They're very substantial differences. Based on this document, it is recognized that local government can also take these matters into account. What makes sense for one area does not necessarily make sense for another. And that is why we are here tonight. We're here tonight to hear from our community about their concerns. We are here tonight to address all of the issues, not just how many people have been infected by COVID and how many people have died. We're talking about a very real issue, and that is people's economic ability to survive, along with their psychological well-being, dealing with depression and anxiety. I know we're going to hear from you regarding other issues that have come up. So with that, I am going to ask that each of the council members please talk regarding their understanding of this as we move forward in this meeting. So I'm going to begin with you, Councilman Evelyn, if you would please, sir.
I've got a couple of things that I want to hit on here. Part of this is going to be my humblest of opinions, but as I've spoken with the public, members and business owners earlier, I don't know that we've really had a grasp on this from the beginning on how to appropriately treat this. Again, I would never hold it against somebody at any point. If you were immunocompromised in some way, elderly, you had prior health issues that might affect you specifically, and you feel you should stay in place as far as shelter in place, I think that's probably the right answer for you. I think that's appropriate and you should do that. However, I don't think, my personal opinion is that that's the right answer for everybody. I don't think shutting down a community is necessarily the right way to go. And I don't think a lot of people have thought of, and I know, our illustrious, prior Mayor Pro Tem mentioned the mental health issues that are involved in this. And that's a very real thing. Some of the rates are, normally, and I use that kind of tongue in cheek, normally, we get about 50,000 suicides a year, about 130 suicides per day. Currently, we've got some projections that could, during this process, right now put us well over 160 per day. Obviously, that's going to be localized to different areas and different circumstances. But I can imagine once these models are played out and we look back, we're going to see a huge spike in the suicide rates. Child abuse, over 6.5 million children a year, 2 million involved in violence. We lose approximately 1,800 child deaths a year specifically to violent abuse. And those numbers are looking to go well over 2,400, close to 2,500, if some of the models play out in what we're looking at right now. Same thing, domestic violence, which is a recognized national health care issue. Domestic violence at this point is another spike. We're looking, normally it's one in 4 women, which puts us around 25%, have or will be victims of domestic violence. This, if the projection continues from a couple of sources, could spike us over 30%. To me, these things, I understand, and a lot of people, a few people voiced their opinions on, hey, let's continue to do what we're doing because that's going to be the healthiest thing to do. I beg to differ. I think long term we're going to be looking at some pretty astronomical numbers that we're going to put on the board, so to speak, that are going to be the secondary deaths and or for lack of a better term, destruction of lives as a secondary portion of what this is doing to us. There's nothing, as far as I can see, there's no solid answers to any of this, but I just think it would be kind of irresponsible to not look at this too, as to look and see not just, hey, the virus is doing this, but hey, all of these additional things are happening because of what we're deeming to be the fix to the virus. So it kind of works. I think you got to look at the bigger picture other than even just the fiscal issues that we're having locally, nationally, that may take, depending on the projection, 2 to 7 years. There's a bigger picture here than you might be the one getting a virus of some sort. It's a huge picture. And again, my personal opinion is that you feel that you are in that high-risk category, then by all means, stay home, shelter in place, use the services that are available to you, and we can take that on as a responsibility as individuals in our neighborhoods to help those folks out as much as possible. But in my humble opinion, it is time to open up Taft.
All right.
That's
Thank
all
you
I
very
have,
much,
Mr.
sir.
Mayor.
Thanks, sir. Councilman Whiting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is my thoughts on this. I've been wrestling with this for at least a week or so since we talked about it last week, and this is kind of what I've come up with. What is the difference between an essential business and a non-essential business? Well, let's take a look at it. Let's look at how the essential businesses operate. They utilize social distancing, obviously, extra cleaning of surfaces, increased frequency of washing hands, using face masks, gloves, checking temperatures. In fact, we heard a lot of that from some of the people that voiced their comments. We've watched with disdain, though, as the state, federal, county, and city governments wrestle over this very issue, though, of what is essential and what is not essential. Closing of gun stores, not closing gun stores, closing churches, not closing churches. Same for bars, restaurants, movie theaters, bookshops, whatever. Of course, no one wanted to close the recreational marijuana shops or the abortion clinics. Though one could argue using the label of essential or non-essential, they should have closed. No one system of government can seem to agree what is essential or not essential. A great deal of it seemed to be politically driven, I noticed. What's the difference between an essential business and a non-essential business? I think the answer is pretty simple. Nothing. As long as they do what the essential businesses do. The bottom line is no more labels. A business is a business. Be cautious as always, but open it back up. I believe if we don't open it back up with the obvious caveats, we'll be very close to throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And that's not good. And that's my thoughts, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. Councilman Bryant.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you listen to the statements that we've made tonight, we will make the statements that came from the constituents out and about in the community, and even the letters we're getting, obviously from the federal government, the comments we're getting from the state government, the federal government. They happen to hold a lot of adjectives, right? Ones I heard a lot of: rational, prudent, reasonable, necessary, sensible. So I want you to keep those in mind, because one of the most beautiful things that we enjoy as citizens of this country are individual freedoms and liberties. But we're tasked with exercising those in a personally responsible way. I'm sorry, my brain just went. In doing so, you have to be rational, prudent, reasonable, and sensible when you do exercise those freedoms, because then you tend to infringe upon others when you don't. You tend to hurt them or hurt yourself in a manner that's not beneficial to them, to you, or the public. And I think, as we've heard here tonight, many folks believe that we can, and we've exhibited this, that we can do this. We can act in rational and sensible ways to navigate through this crisis. How many of us have been to a hardware store multiple times in the last 2 weeks? How many of us have been to the grocery store probably in the last 2 weeks? Any other store, we may have had our hair or our nails done. Obviously, I haven't. But really, yes, there are differences, but those differences, in my opinion, are quite subtle, and they're navigable if you exercise reason, prudence, and caution. I think Councilmember Evelyn mentioned high rates of suicide and death because of the impacts on mental, physical well-being. Obviously, people are turning to things other than their normal routine, or maybe they're just exacerbating their normal routine by exercising high rates of alcoholism, drug abuse, even mental abuse. I'm sure it's happened. It's akin to what happens in the Pacific Northwest. When you see that their weather confines them to their homes, even folks who live in areas in Alaska where you have to be inside a lot, high incidences of suicide or other substance abuse. And I think this is indicative of a very similar situation. So, like Councilmember Evelyn mentioned, those aren't being talked about. Actually, you may have mentioned it, Mr. Mayor. Those aren't being talked about because they're hard to quantify today, but they are definitely real. It's easy to sit by and say that these things have, that coronavirus is impacting us on the daily, because you can measure today how many people have been infected by way of tests. Sure, you're not testing everybody, but at least you have a number of known cases. How many of us know how many people are abusing alcohol or drugs today? We don't. How many of us know how many people are being abused at home today at a heightened rate as a result of this? We don't. But the fact is, it's real. So there is a consequence to this. The other consequences we've talked about many times is the economic impact here. It's not just in the city of Taft, it's regional, it's by the county, it's in the state, it's national, and it's global, and it's undeniable. And the longer, in my opinion, that we continue to wait, the shorter the economic viability we'll have as a global, national, regional, and local economy, period. And that's impactful to all of us here in Taft. Some folks have talked about nail salons, hair salons. My wife's a cosmetologist. My home has been impacted. Do I think that she can act in a publicly reasonable and judicious way to do her job? I absolutely do. And ultimately, I believe we'll make the decision to help support that locally. And not just that was just an example, but any other currently non-essential businesses around the state will get the same sort of look. But I think it's in our own best interest to continue to push that direction for ourselves personally, for ourselves socially, mentally, and economically. I think we can easily take measures such as mitigating customer exposure, as everyone here has enumerated, practicing social distancing. That's something I think we're going to be forever saddled with, is social distancing. Maybe handshakes never come back. Who knows? Doc Holliday would be happy, right? But at the end of the day, we were going to move forward certainly into a new normal, but the current normal is not viable in any shape of the word. And I look forward to us pushing our region, specifically the city of Taft and the West Side, forward, because it is, in my opinion, in our best interests. And it's critical that we act quickly so we can expedite that recovery. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. All right, Mayor Pro Tem Cryer, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to give you a perspective, where I'm at the moment, I'm in a town called Calexico. I'm within a half a mile of the Mexican border, and a lot of them cross back and forth here for work. But my opinion, and probably opinion of many of others, I feel that all businesses are essential. I don't care how small the business is or how big it is. It's like a cog. It takes all the businesses together to make our economy grow, provide services that's needed, that crosses all different businesses and stuff to keep things healthy in our community. I went to a vendor here to have some work done, and we were talking about the biggest talk about the COVID-19, and he stated that his wife works at a local hospital here, and they cut her hour down to 28 hours a week because there's no patients. I'm at a different hospital. My motel is across from that hospital. Parking lot's full. I might see 3 or 4 cars there. Hardly anybody there. And it seems like I feel like we were lied to from the very beginning when it had the computer model saying they were going to have over 2 million Americans going to die within a couple of months. They're going to have millions upon millions be affected. We haven't seen that yet. And we only have like 56,000 deaths, but I just don't think it's all attributed to the 19. But I just think that we are, in the whole world, to add it all up, it's not anywhere near what's going to happen to us in the U.S. We're so far below the computer model. And my opinion is, why don't we just open up everything up? I wouldn't have no restrictions. I wouldn't care how they want, to each person, how they want to set their restaurants up, their bar up, or their business up. It's up to them. And the people who are not liking it, are concerned about having masks, social distancing, and all that, they can stay home. We don't have to have them go to the business. They don't have to go outside. And they can do their thing. They can practice their social distancing. It's not an issue. It's a freedom of choice that we have. That we can choose to do it. We choose to get sick, we get sick. But myself, I'm involved heavily in contact with employees and stuff. And I'm over 65 years old. I should be in a vulnerable state and stuff, but I feel good. I don't see an issue. And in my opinion, I'm not saying what I'm saying is correct or stuff. This is what I see, what I've observed, and practicing right now. And I'm in the produce business, in agriculture here. I'm in the manufacturing company in another location. I have my own patents. I develop new technology. I do a lot of things that a lot of people don't know that I'm involved with, whatever. But I'm involved a lot in the industry, providing jobs, providing income, and to only in Kern County, but throughout the world. My business, I do. But I used to think that it's all overblown, that the Freedom Model first time came out was wrong. They adjusted quite a few times, and now it's almost about the same, if not less than, the common flu that we get every year. And we're going to have this thing here for years to come. There will be no cure, because you cannot cure a virus. So they would have done it a long time ago with AIDS, with the flu, the common cold. They all would have been cured. You get medicine to help it ease the pain and ease the what you're going through on there, but it will never be a cure. I wouldn't be surprised next year we have COVID 20 and 21 and 22 as the years go by. But are we going to go ahead and go down our economy now? Now, I understand if we have a plague coming or some other disease or coming our way, I understand it's the correct measure. In the beginning, this probably was the correct measure. But as a few weeks passed and didn't wear out like they thought it would be, I think that we should have eased, let people go back to their normal role and open our cities and stuff. Because what we did now is our grandchildren, our children, our grandchildren, their grandchildren, they're all going to pay for the price that's being dealt out today. And I think that every business should be open, no restrictions. But the business decide how they want to do it. Let the citizens decide how they want to cope with it. If they want to wear their mask, let them wear it. Or if they want to stay home and quarter in place, do it. But the church is being closed. And the spiritual needs that we need right now in our country, and the prayers that we need to overcome what's happening in our country, that is important. That's essential. And flower shop, yeah, it's essential. Somebody dies, that offers comfort to the family. Somebody's sick, flowers offer comfort to the patients and stuff. But I think every business is essential, I have in my opinion. I'm rambling a little bit, but I'm outside. I'm outside right now. It's like 104 right now. But in the sunlight, since I mentioned it, sunlight with the UV rays and stuff is healthy for you. It kills the viruses, kills the bacteria because they can't handle the heat and the ultraviolet. It kills it. And so I encourage people to go outside and walk. If they want to practice social distance, great. They can go ahead and walk alone or with their partners and walk around in our parks and stuff and get the exercise and and build their immunity that way. That's all I have to say, Mayor. I hope I didn't ramble too much, but I think that we suffered enough.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your comments, sir. So, if this is the new normal for a while, social distancing, PPE, additional hygiene, we believe, proven that it's been effective up to this point to flattening the curve. And actually, if you look at the curve and the graphs that have been shown up there on the screen, it has been pretty flat for Kern County for some time. The death rate, as is demonstrated by the other graphs, in Kern County is extremely low compared to all the other counties that I referenced. So if this is the new normal, and we're going to be using these procedures for some time, why wait to integrate them into the other aspects of life? Why wait? If we can effectively and safely go to the grocery store, or go to the hardware store, or go to a convenience store, or go buy gasoline, or any of the above, utilizing these processes, we can integrate them into a hybrid business plan so that we can open up some of the other businesses as well. We will do this, I believe, in a step process, which is outlined, I might add, in the CDC's website in this plan, Opening Up America Again. It is there. And it does, as I demonstrated, speak to the differences from region to region. Because of that, I called this meeting. I wanted input from the community. I wanted input from all the council members so that we could all consider all the different opinions. Because after all, city government is the people's government. This is their city, and they all have a stake in it. I think one of the most important things to consider is, as we move through this, that if we're successful in getting permission, because we have to ask permission. Somebody in one of the letters said they were worried that Kern County Health could descend upon them and start writing tickets and citations. Well, we are going to communicate with Kern County Health. We're going to communicate with the Board of Supervisors. We're going to communicate with Assemblyman Vince Fong, Senator Shannon Grove, and Congressman Kevin McCarthy. We're going to communicate with all of them. And that is the concerns and the ideas regarding what is best for the people of the city of Taft. We do not know what is best for the city of San Francisco or LA County, or New York for that matter. But we weren't elected and tasked with looking after the welfare of those folks. We're here to look after the welfare of the people of the city of Taft. Because of that, I've written a letter, and I'm going to read this letter to the council, and it is my intent to ask that you consider affixing your signature to this letter before it goes out, because after all, you represent the people of the city of Taft just as surely as I do, so it's important. So I'm going to read this letter to you. And this is actually being addressed to Matt Constantine, the director of Kern County Health. Dear Director Constantine, on behalf of the citizens of the city of Taft, I am writing to you to request your expertise and assistance to us as we prepare guidelines and protocols that will be followed in order to move some businesses from non-essential to the essential category as we continue to cope with the issues of COVID-19. We, like all community leaders, spend a great deal of time every day absorbing all the latest data and professional interpretations of that data in order to make real-time informed decisions for our respective communities. We must also weigh the impacts these policies have on the financial and perhaps more importantly, the psychological well-being of our community. As current data shows a local flattening of the curve regarding infections and fatalities, the curves for financial and psychological negative impacts are growing at a frightening and unsustainable rate. The evidence of negative psychological impacts can be seen in the rapid increases of spousal abuse, child abuse, alcoholism, drug abuse, and overdoses, to name a few. Increases in the number of patients requesting medication for depression and anxiety is also alarming. In order to try to flatten those alarming curves, we want to take steps that will allow us to move toward a restoration of some semblance of normalcy in our city. Beginning with recognizing that some businesses listed as non-essential are indeed essential to quality of life and psychological well-being of the community. We want to modify the restrictions placed on these businesses with new business processes that integrate the social distancing, PPE, and additional hygiene requirements that have become a current lifestyle necessity. We recognize this process must be taken carefully and in phases. The businesses we propose to begin with, among others, are barbers, hairdressers, nail salons, and flower shops, as well as gyms. Many of these are small, owner-operated, and among the hardest hit by current guidelines. This would be a shot in the arm to the business owners and their employees, as well as a welcome relief to their customers. It is our belief that this undertaking can be done safely, allowing our small business owners to make their own decisions concerning their comfort level with opening their businesses, leaving it up to their customers to decide whether they are comfortable with patronizing the open businesses. Our projected date for having the acceptable guidelines and protocols in place and fully communicated to all interested parties is May the 4th, 2020. While I recognize this timeline is short and there are many details to be worked out in this process, I have noted that one of the greatest learnings connected to COVID-19 pandemic is that government can do much more in much less time than ever thought possible before. The City of Taft is dedicated to getting those citizens who can and want to return to work the ability to do so. Your assistance to us in any way you deem appropriate is most appreciated. Questions may be directed to me at the following phone number respectfully, Dave Knorr, Mayor of the City of Taft. So, gentlemen, for your consideration, there is the letter. You may comment.
I think it's fantastic. I support it. I'd be happy to add my signature to that all day long.
All right. Mayor Pro Tem Cryer?
Add my name too. It was excellent.
All
Thank
right,
you,
thanks, sir.
Same here, Mr. Mayor. Glad to sign it.
As we've spoken today, I fully agree with our ability to be able to do that, and hopefully soon. So I will definitely put my signature to that.
All right. Respecting the individual rights of our citizens and respecting the fact that they are sensible enough and smart enough to exercise what is in their best interest is a critical component to representing them appropriately. I think we all agree with that. Therefore, the recommendation first was to discuss and receive public input and direct staff as to how to move forward. It would appear a unanimous decision of this city council that this letter go out with the signatures of all council members affixed to this letter to Matt Constantine, to the Board of Supervisors, to Assemblyman Vince Fong, Senator Shannon Grove, and Congressman Kevin McCarthy, requesting their help in putting these policies together so we can move forward. All right. I thank you all. At this time, I want to thank you all for your consideration coming to this special meeting, and all of you who are a part of it and making your opinions be known. At this time, I would consider a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for being here.